Check out the links in my description for more information, for more resources. Check out the podcast. Check out the Facebook groups. Just check out the links. There's a lot of great stuff there. Comment, rate, subscribe, share, like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Dragon Ball Super Master Class. So the only thing that matters in a deck is a WinCon. Because everything else is just there to facilitate your win condition. I've been saying for a long time, the first 4 damage is the easiest, mainly because your opponent lets you deal them 4 damage. And back in the day, it was mainly because players wanted to awaken, because they get to draw on their awaken side, and that's how they get their card advantage. Another reason they took damage is because, it itself is card advantage, right? They're taking hits, so they're adding cards to their hands every turn, from taking hits, and then once they awaken, they can swing and get more card advantage. So they're trying to maximize their hand size because they're trying to win by out-comboing their opponent, their final swing, which is a basic strategy, a basic way of winning the game is attacking with something, ideally with double strike, and then dumping your whole hand into the attack, and hopefully your opponent can't out combo and the attack goes through and you win like that, which is the most basic way of winning the game. But of course, as a player, you should be looking for alternative ways of winning, ways of finishing the game that isn't that basic. Because the thing with that type of winning is that it's not as consistent as you would like it to be. Because if your opponent does out combo, then you failed to win the game. So you literally wasted your whole entire hand just to fail, right? So it becomes a luck based thing. Now, granted, you could do what's called combo math, which is figure out how much combo power your opponent potentially has in their hand, and make sure that you can produce more than that, and guarantee that the attack goes through. But you have to be really good at guessing, right? There are some effects in the game that you can use to look at your opponent's hand, so that way you don't have to guess. That's something that I showcased a long time ago. That there are cards you can use to try to help you, win the game just because you know what's in your opponent's hand. Ironically, I'm making a deck that utilizes that concept, using cards. It's going to be obviously mostly a red deck that uses cards to let me look at my opponent's hand. So I'm always aware of what they have or don't have. So, like I said, the first 4 damage is the easiest. The next 2 require a little bit of effort. And then the last 2 is the hardest, usually because after turn 2, when your opponent has 3 or more energy, being able to defend their life is a lot easier because they have more energy to do so. So it gets harder to do the last 2 damage. The last 2 damage was easy to do, then everybody be doing it, right? So obviously, and then we got stuff like free negates and so forth and so forth, right? So there's many things that can potentially super combos obviously is a factor in that regards that can make it harder to go for game. The fact that your opponent could probably could play a blocker for free. There's some free blockers or some counter plays that have the blocker skill. There's floodgate negates, obviously, right? There's some that can be played for free, like what is it called? Dormant Potential Unleash. That one could be played for free if you have a unison, right? So with those types of things in the game, and players actually, obviously playing those cards, the last 2 damage tends to be the hardest. Sometimes, the best you can do is do 4 damage because it's usually the easiest, and then the next 4 is harder to do because your opponent is, putting up a really good defense. So it gets harder to do the last 4. So you got to find a way to deal with that, right? To do the last 4 or 2 damage. So that's where the WinCons come into play, right? You gotta dedicate a spot into your deck specifically for the purpose of winning the game, because otherwise, then you're going to be relying on luck to win, and that's not really a good idea. Because, mathematically, it's not a 50-50 chance of you winning or losing. When you're relying on luck to win, then the percentage actually increases. So it'd be more like an 80-20 type of scenario, right? 80% chance of you losing, 20% chance of you winning. If you let luck or randomness to decide, if you win or lose. And as competitive players or just players in general, you don't want it to be random. You want to choose when you win. You want to win because you put in the effort to win. It'd be a waste of time playing a game for like 30 plus minutes just to lose, right? Randomly. Losing because your opponent, had a WinCon, right? And they used it is one thing, but for you to lose because you didn't really have a WinCon and you were just relying on luck to win, that would suck. That's just a waste of time, waste of life, right? Why even play if it boils down to luck? Which is why it annoys me sometimes when people try to make certain, try to be like, try to make certain games, sound more like it's a luck-based game. I mean, recently I was hearing people talking about that this game is more of a dice roll game, right? Whoever goes first, blah, blah, blah type stuff. It's like, nah, not necessarily. It's whoever has a WinCon. And if your WinCon can be played sooner than later, then yeah, you'll win. Sooner than later, right? So you change that factor. Let's say, let me talk about the good old days. So me and my teammate, we used to use this card. We still own the card, obviously. And this was our WinCon, right? And the funny thing is, whichever one of us actually played this card was the one who won. So what I've noticed mathematically, whoever went first was the one who's more likely going to get to play this. But that's if you actually drew it, right? So obviously we can mulligan and try to get it. So if I go first, I'm definitely trying to mulligan to try to get it. Sometimes I mulligan my whole hand just to try to get this one copy of the card. And if I have it, it's like, oh, I'm pretty much going to win. So all I have to do is at least do 4 damage, which is always the easiest, especially back then. Or just do 3. That way my opponent doesn't awaken, right? So then he doesn't get to draw, increasing his hand size. So by the time I play this, their hand size is so low that they won't be able to out-combo each and every one of my token swings, right? Because potentially by the time you play this, you might have a battle card, like for me it's Bodyguard Electric. So I have Bodyguard Electric and play for free. Then I'll play this, get the 3 tokens. So that right there is 5 battle cards, plus the leaders at 6. So that's 6 potential attacks. Versus my opponent, let's say my opponent has like 3 to 4 life. So 3 or 4 life, which means I only need 2 of the double strike attacks to go to, or at least 2 attacks to go, right? Well, I need at least 2 of the double strike attacks to go through to finish my opponent off, or 1 double strike and 1 and 2 single strikes, right? To go through to deal 4 damage. Right, so as long as I make sure all my attacks are 20k, right, then my opponent needs 10k for each attack. And since I have 6 attacks, they're going to need at least 6 10ks, right? But if their hand size is 6 or less, and 10ks were typically, when I say 10k, I'm talking obviously super combos, because by the time you play this, your opponent should be tapped out. Typically, their opponent is. So when you play this, they're not going to be able to negate. They're more likely to have no blockers, so you probably already killed them already. But they just don't play blockers at all. Most of us didn't play blockers back then, so the likelihood of playing this, and it just boils down to combo power. And since you're going wide, and your opponent's hand size is small, the likelihood of you, gaming your opponent with this was a lot higher than not. But ironically, a lot of players didn't really play this competitively anyway. Back in the day, which was Ironic considering how literally this was a one card WinCon. Still is in some regards. It's just that now we draw so much that it makes it harder for this to win you out games. Especially we got stuff like, especially if somebody can pull it off, like a Bean or something like that, or they have a Zamasu super combo, so they can tap down at least this 5-drop. So that way it's not a 25 or 25k double strike swinging at your opponent type thing. All those other factors. But of course, with Overwhelm, obviously you can make this strategy stronger because you can Overwhelm for free afterwards, right? So if your opponent's still alive, just Overwhelm and just swing for game, right? So we could do a lot more now than back then. Now you have what you call baby hatchjacks, that kind of stuff. So it'd be harder to win with this card nowadays than back then. So, but we have tons of other ways to, tons of other win cons. So that used to be a win con back in the day. Another one was, if you could pull it off, was Lightning Fast Hit. He's still viable now, especially when they gave us the 3-drop that lets us evolve from the drop. So, you evolve him, deal 2 damage to your opponent. And he's double strike, so you could, try to use him to reduce your opponent from 4 life down to 2 with his burn effect, and then just try to swing and, double strike your opponent for game. So, another way to win, obviously, is your opponent can't out-combo your attack, your opponent can't negate your attack. And, I mean, ideally, it's more about combo power than anything, because when you play your win con, you're mostly going to play it when your opponent's tapped out, so negates are less likely to be played. Granted, there are some free negates, but, if they got it, they got it. If they don't, they don't. Hopefully, they don't, right? But at least as long as you make sure they're tapped out, it drastically reduces the possibility of a Topo, Oceanus, that kind of stuff. Or a 1 energy negate or anything of that nature, right? So you're forcing them to have to use free negates in order to try to stop you from going for game. And of course, make sure they have no blockers. Most cards you want to use to as a finisher might have an effect that clears your opponent's board anyway, like Full Power Frieza, which is a 30k triple strike. When you play him, you minus 30k to all your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier. So that right there will get rid of blockers. So you don't have to worry about blockers in that regards. And then he's 30k triple strike. So that's already a good start base for you to swing with. And then, start comboing and get him, into kill range, right? So reducing your opponent's hand size so that way they can't outcomp is a strategy, right? It's something you want to do. So Perfect War Cell helps with that. There's other cards similar to him that can help you reduce your opponent's hand size. Obviously, Android 17 Turn of Tides is a win con, right? Because it drastically reduces your opponent's hand size down to 0. So all you have to worry about is blockers, which hopefully you already got rid of them. Because I do a line of play where I bounce all my opponent's battle cards on their field back to the hand. With my 5-drop Goku, Super Saiyan 4 Goku Protector of the Earth Unison. Then I play this to clear my opponent's, hand. So now he has no blockers, he has no hands, no cards in his hands. So he won't be able to out-combo and won't be able to negate. And I can start swinging for game. I just gotta get my opponent's life low enough that, I can, him, Unison plus the leader swing will be more than enough to win the game, right? So 3 or less life is the target goal for using this win con. And that's the thing about win con, is just meeting the conditions, right? And you're always trying to find ways for the condition to be easier to be met. So if there's a win con you have that can win you the game even when your opponent has 6 life, for example, then that's an awesome win con. And hopefully you could play it sooner than later, right? Going tall, right? The whole comboing. So since you're trying to focus, because it's easier to reduce blockers, and maybe the potential negates, but that's not guaranteed. Because again, like I said, free negates exist. But combo power, it tends to be a little bit harder, especially if you're dealing your opponent a lot of damage real quick, trying to kill them, right? More likely, a lot of the damage is not crit damage, so the cards are being added to their hand. Since the cards is being added to their hand, you're literally giving them more combo power to protect themselves when you try to go for game. So of course, you always want to look for stuff that, well, definitely want to play stuff that has crit. If you can find stuff that has crit, definitely want to collect those cards and try to use them. So that will reduce your opponent's hand size. That means they have to rely on their leader to draw them some card advantage, right? Unisons or anything else they can use to try to add cards to their hands. So you're just making it hard for them. Making it harder for them to have a big hand size if you're not helping them by dealing them regular damage. So using crit damage, dealing crit damage is ideally what you want. You want all your damage to be crit damage. So there's that. But like I said, comboing is something you have to worry about, right? You have to worry about the possibility of your opponent having combo that will prevent your attacks from going through. So you always want to maximize your combo power, which is where you drawing a lot of cards come in. You playing something like MicroRecords Absorb, which can drastically increase his power, and he can get up to really, really high numbers, right? 80k, 100k, stuff like that. Relatively easy depending on the deck you're using. So going tall, as they say, would be one way of bypassing opponent's hand size. Another way of bypassing opponent's hand size, like I mentioned before, was Ghost Attack Trunks, is going wide, having a whole bunch of attackers that your opponent has to try to out-combo each attack. And the stronger the attacks are, the better. And of course, if the attacks can do 2+ damage is always good too. That way, it increases the chances of just one of those attacks getting through. If any of those attacks get through, it's a kill. That's lethal, right? That's lethal damage. So you always want stuff like that. Anything that can do a lot of damage, it can be easily cheated out. Preferably, they can attack more than once. This will help you with those free negates, right? So anything with dual attack will help you bypass, a free negate. Especially if it's like a sparking negate, like a Dimension Magic, something similar to that, right? Where it's just going to stop one attack at first, and then you're like, okay, you stop first attack, but I have a second attack. Do you have anything for that? And they might not have. Or if they use the free blocker negates, having dual attack, will at least help you. Will at least help you get rid of both. Will help you get rid of the blocker after your first attack was negated. So you swing again, they'll block, and at least you were able to prevent the blocker from being used for any other attack. And hopefully you have other attacks that can also attack more than once, right? Or at least you have other attacks that they can go for lethal. So you're definitely looking for dual attack battle, WinCons, right? Unisons they can attack twice, leaders they can attack twice, battle cards they can attack twice or more. Three, triple attack, is good too. So look for stuff like that. Preferably generic, so you can splash in every one of your decks. There is a Fu Banisher or something like that. He's an 8-drop with triple attack. Overwhelm 8, I think, for 4 energy, something like that. So he's generic. He attacks 3 times, so you can look into that. There are some leaders that have effects that can win you the game. This leader right here, his second his first active main. Once per turn, if your opponent has 8 or more energy, choose up to 4 cards from your opponent's light and place them at the bottom of their deck. So, like I said, first 4 damage is the easiest to do because you can just swing with your leader every turn, right? and pretty much do 4 damage. All you have to do is just get your opponent up to 8 energy, right? Through some ramp effects that ramp your opponent's energy. There are cards in this archetype that will ramp your opponent's energy up. And if they're playing energy every turn, you know, like for example, the first 4 turns, the more likely you're gonna be charging energy. So that means you just gotta ramp them up 4 more, right? That way they'll be at 8, and then you can use this to take away the last 4 life they have and win the game that way. There's other ones that have, other conditions you have to meet in order to win, but there are ways to win without attacking your opponent for game, right? Or milling your opponent out. But that's another WinCon, is milling them out. Playing something that would mill them out. For example, this full power freezer not only is good at clearing your opponent's board with its first auto, so that way you don't have to worry about blockers. It also has an auto that when you do minus the power of battle cards, your opponent discards 2 cards for each of those battle cards. So if they have, let's say they have 20, let's say they have 10 battle cards in play, this will make your opponent mill 20 cards from the top of their deck. So if all they had was 20 cards left in their deck, now they lose, right? So just because they have no more cards in their deck. So you can win that way. So this serves this is 2 WinCons in one. You can win through milling your opponent out, or you can win by just clearing your opponent's board and going for triple strike damage, right? We have some extra cards. Burn damage is a WinCon because, like I said, the first 4 is easy. The next 2 require a little effort. The last 2 is the hardest. But if you put some effort into swinging with your leader, Unison, for example, just enough to get your opponent down to 1 life, and you can combo most of your hand just to force your opponent to have to either combo, or they'll be like, all right, I'll just take the damage. It's like, all right, cool. Now you're at 1 life. Now I play this card and deal you 1 damage, right? Cast Terrific Blow. Or if your opponent has no battle cards in play, you can play this for 5 energy, minus 5 from this, and deal your opponent 1 damage, right? So those are ways you can win just through burning your opponent for the last damage. Like I said, the last 2 is the hardest. It's usually because your opponent can defend with blockers, negates, like free negates, right? And combo power. But burn bypasses all that. Just like mill bypasses all that. So you don't have to worry about negates and blockers and combo power if you're burning or milling your opponent. Right? Or like this, I count this as burn, the whole 4 life thing. This has the same effect as that leader, where if you have 15 or more energy, choose up to 4 of your opponent's life and place at the bottom of their deck. So this right here, being a battle card, has the same condition as this leader. The only thing is it has to do with your energy, not your opponent's energy. So you have to ramp up your energy in order to get this effect off. But, it's an option. There's options. Now, like I was saying about the whole comboing thing, that's where Ultra Instinct Sign Goku comes in. Really good card. 1 is easy to get him out sooner than later because of his EX Evolve for 2 blue energy, and you just discard a card to place this on top of a blue Goku with energy cost of 5 or more. We have a lot of neat, good low cost. Like, for example, we have a 6-drop Goku Miraculous Transformation, which we could potentially play for 3 energy, right? We could cheat it out for 3, and then use it as an evolve target for this. So we could play this sooner than later, and then once we have him out in play, he has the permanent. Your opponent can't combo for the duration of this card's battle. That means they can't combo from their hand or field. This has also the auto that when you play this card, you evolve this card on top of the card, right? Return all your opponent's battle cards to the hand. Doesn't ignore a barrier, but hey, hopefully they don't have barrier blockers, right? So you bounce all your opponent's battle cards to the hands, and since they can't combo, right, none of those cards will be used as combo power, right? So now all you have to do worry about. So now you don't have to worry about blockers. You don't have to worry about comboing, but you do have to worry about free negates, right? But that's where a counter would come into play. Something that can negate the negate, so that way this attack can go through and you can win. So these two separately can be used as win cons, right? But together, they're a win con, right? They're a win con combination, or a combination win con. They're a game winning combo, whatever you want to call it, right? A win combo. So a win combo. So like I said, by understanding what will prevent you from winning, you'll obviously try to find ways to circumvent it, and that's what makes a win con a win con. It's a guaranteed way of winning because it meets all the requirements that you need in order to win the game, because you understand how the game works, right? And that's part of mastering the game. Once you master the game, you realize the game is really simple, so then you just need, and you find cards that further help the simplicity of the game, right? And play cards that, make the game easier for you than it would be if you just relied on luck. So that's why all these cards here, and there's plenty more of these, plenty more cards. These are just some examples of cards you can use, obviously, to help you win the game. But hopefully this will let you see a win con, right? Whenever you open packs and pull a card, you'll know if it's a win con or not based off of these criteria. Which is why it's very important to be focusing on a win con, making sure your deck has a win con. If you can incorporate more than one, obviously, right, that'd be good. Like you could play, obviously, Mirror, Create, Absorb in the same deck in which you play Turning the Tides. One of these two is going to hit the field and win you the game, right? As an example. You could put, Ultra Instinct Goku, Golden Avengers, and Turning Tides all in the same blue deck, right? And increase your chances of winning through one of these win cons, through one of these being used as a win con, right? So let's say you swing with your leader gets power boost, it got double strike, and you plan to dump your hand into the attack, but then your opponent wants to negate the attack. You use this, pay 5, and counter the attack, right? Counter the negate, and then dump your hand into your leader swing and go for game. Or if they manage to out combo the attack, your leader's attack, now their hand size should be so low that a 30k triple strike should be more than enough to win you the game, right? This also has the ability to let you draw a card when you play it, so that will increase your hand size for when you swing with your leader. You combo, right? So it's very, very good, very, very good card. And I'm currently waiting on my play set of that, because I have pretty much all these cards here. Don't have that. I have that 8 drop. I did just order Charismatic Blow and Golden Avengers, so I'm waiting for them in the mail. But I have all these other cards. Right? So there's that. So I have a whole bunch of win cons, right? And the last thing would be just creating a win con, as opposed to something just being flat out a win con by itself, like a 1-card win con. Having cards that combining cards, so that way it creates a win condition. So I've created a lot of combos, a lot of strategies that create a win con, like playing a deck that has a whole bunch of 30k skillless battle cards, and then using Shenron, Unison of Rescue, playing it for 6 energy, right? Ramping to play for 6, then attach a second copy of it to make it have 7 markers, then -7 and bring back all the skillless battle cards that might drop to the field, which might be between, I'll say, 4 to 8, skillless battle cards I can get into play with the card, and start swinging at my opponent with a whole bunch of 30ks. So my opponent would need 20 combo power to stop each attack. So essentially 2 super combos for each attack, right? And by the time I play this, they probably have 2 life anyway. Only need 2 attacks to go through. They'll probably have 2 or 1 life depending on the situation. And then I still have my leader swing, right? So I still have my leader swing. I could still overwhelm. So I can still get some extra attacks on top of the attacks that I already have. So, the likelihood of me winning is very high. I've, 4 times, I've done that combo that I've actually played out that strategy. And every time I played it, I never even got a chance to attack, but my opponent just scoops as soon as the battle cards hit the field. So, pretty sure that I will win just with all those attacks, but I've never actually succeeded in attacking my opponent with a whole bunch of 30Ks. I just succeeded in getting them on the field at the same time. Shenron, yellow Shenron, the yellow Shenron leader, that, which I have the deck of, and I have a whole bunch of 30Ks in that deck. That's the same premise. You pay 6 yellow energy on the awakened side of the leader, and then you bring out a whole bunch, up to 7 different shadow dragons of different names onto the field. And of course, I put a whole bunch of 30Ks into my deck, and I have a unison that helps me draw 2 cards every turn. Plus, the leader, attacks lets me search the top 5 for a shadow dragon. So, getting the shadow dragons, comboing them off right defensively to get them to the drop, and then bring them all back for a one-hitter quitter. Simple. So that right there is a strategy that creates a WinCon. So you gotta put things together to get it to function. Originally, I just had a whole bunch of double strike and dual attacks in my deck. That's still a viable strategy, of course. Having a whole bunch of 20K plus double strikers is always good. But a lot of the 30Ks that I have either have triple attack, triple strike or double strike, or they can gain the double strike or whatnot. Or they can gain dual attack. I can take advantage of that and use that, obviously, to be able to do a lot of damage. There's this card called Ganos Bird of Prey. Ganos Bird of Prey, which is a 5-drop 30K double strike with deflect, and it has an active main that I could take 2 skillless battle cards from my drop, remove it from the game, and then I can switch this to active mode. It's not a once per turn effect, so as long as I can afford I could warp 2 skillless battle cards, I can keep restanding him, keep attacking. So he's a good. When it comes to that Shenron figure unison of rescue strategy, if I use a whole bunch of 30K skillless red cards, if for some reason I can't bring them back from the drop and use them to go for game, I could just at least play him for 5 energy, and then just warp those skillless battle cards in my drop, and pretty much get almost the same result. As long as I can get at least 3 to 4 swings with this card, I can just flat out win with just that. So that itself is a WinCon. Just being able to attack multiple times can help you win a game, obviously, because it helps you bypass not only negate, but also makes it harder for your opponent to out combo, because they have to combo for each they have to try to stop each attack. They have to try to out combo each attack. So you want your attacks to be high, and obviously you want a combo to make it harder for them to out combo your attack, so that way your attacks have a higher chance of going through and for you to win. And it's the importance of a WinCon. Everything else in your deck is just there to help you to get to your WinCon, help you get to the to the point where you can deal the last 2 damage to your opponent. And that's all you really got to focus on. Too many people are focusing on other things. They're focusing on things that don't even make sense to focus on. They'll try to have certain cards to help them against certain matchups, when the only thing you need is a WinCon. So that way there is no matchup. Because all you do is win, 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 no matter what. That's what I like to do. Win, win, win. No matter what my opponent does. No matter what my opponent is playing, I should be winning. Because I got WinCons.